Okay, so the status of the 404 permit. We actually received the signed permit today, so we're really excited about that. We anticipate the addendum would be issued within the next week, but so people have access to the information. It's going to be posted on our website in the very near future, so everyone can start reviewing that. And as we've received the signed permit today, we are still reviewing and digesting the information ourselves. But I went through it and picked out some information that is going to be important to know. So the wetland mitigation site, as we talked about last time, we anticipated the construction of the mitigation site needs to be concurrent with fill activities, and that actually did show up in the permit, which means that once we start filling wetlands, we have to start construction of the mitigation site. And then the date in the permit requires the construction of the mitigation site to be done by April 1st of 2021. And if it's not completed by then, or if we don't anticipate it that we can get that completed by then, we need to coordinate with the Corps to figure out a day that would be acceptable or what our plan is of when that would be completed. All right, special condition 7 in the permit, and this isn't a new condition, but I just wanted to call attention to it. As far as borrow sites, we need to notify the Corps of the location of any borrow site. They evaluate the borrow sites for impacts to aquatic resources, historic properties, and endangered species. And then work at the borrow site shall not start until approval is received from the Corps. Again, it's nothing new, just want to make sure that everyone is aware of this condition. Okay, temporary structures. There was conditions in there that construction of any temp structures shall not occur in wetlands or waters of the U.S. until reviewed or approved by the Corps. As this is an individual permit, it will require an amendment to the permit or a permit modification. And then the Corps has also requested to receive one submittal for all temp structures for their review and approval, which ties into this next portion. There's approximately 20 culvert locations that have some additional approval requirements imposed on them. For these locations, to divert water for the channels, the intermittent channels, and all of that, we need to create a similar ditch or diversion outside of the proposed culvert, and that information needs to be provided to the Corps for their review and approval. And a little bit more specific information on that. This is what the Corps has requested to see as part of that submittal. So basically just some plans or sketches showing the area where that diversion would be, or basically what your plan is to divert water, any impacts, the duration of that activity, and then what we would do to restore the site, which would be grading, seeding, typical language that we would see in our 404 permits. And then in addition, staying on temporary structures, the goal of the diversions for this is to follow some general conditions that the Corps has, which would be constructed to withstand expected high flows, and then not restrict or impede passage of normal or high flows, and then maintain low flows to sustain movement of aquatic species. Again, these aren't new conditions to any of our permits. These are standard conditions that we have in any of our projects that require a 404 permit. And then we do have a temp access crossing permitted as part of the project at the station listed above. And the access crossing was approved with CMPs and not a temporary bridge. If a temporary bridge would be the preferred method by a contractor, we would need to submit the plan and proposal to the Corps for their review and approval. And same thing as previously mentioned about the information needed, plans, sketches, duration, all of that stuff. Basically our standard requirements that we would have. All right. Most importantly, things to remember. For the conditions that are in this permit, they're basically the same as any of other DOT projects, our general conditions, our regional conditions, any of our individual permits. If you've worked with us before, same BMPs, same conditions. And as this is an individual permit, we just need to account for extra time for the Corps' review and approvals for the temporary structures and the borrow sites. And as mentioned before, we just received the permit pretty recently, so we're still digesting some of the information. But those were some of the highlights from us looking through it.